This video is going to talk about how to explain your quotes or examples in your writing, and we call this explanation analysis. So, analysis is just when you're explaining for the reader what something means. You're drawing their attention to something and, in essence, interpreting it for them to make sure that they arrive at the same conclusion that you do. So, I like to use this analogy. Imagine you're walking with your friend and you see this flower on the sidewalk, and you point out and say, "Hey, look at the flower." You may be looking at the pretty petals and kind of admiring them, but your friend may be actually looking like at the center of the flower and wondering, noticing a bee in there or something pollinating. Sometimes this happens in writing. When you say, "Hey, here's a quote," you may be seeing one thing in the quote, but your reader may be seeing something completely different. What analysis does is it draws your reader's attention away from where they were and moves it to where you want it to be. So, this is relevant for your paragraph exercises where you're sometimes asked to quote or do summaries, and also in the reading questions for number 2, where you're often asked to provide a quote and then draw the reader's attention to it and saying, "This is how I figured out the main idea of the chapter." All right, so here's an example of how you would have analysis for a quote. Say this is your paragraph exercise for the week, and your topic sentence is, "There's no talent without effort." Often we think that talent means someone doesn't need to put an effort, but this isn't true. All right, now, right here in the gray is the quote that I'm going to use. This is my evidence and example, but I can't just plop it into the middle of my paragraph. I first have to introduce it, okay? And remember, this is following what's in our Oz textbook, that you always introduce what you were saying. So we would say, in Duckworth's book, she gives an example of the author John Irving, who was severely dyslexic and not a good writer, but Irving made himself practice writing repeatedly until he mastered it. Then I give my quote where John Irving talks about how he came to appreciate doing something over and over again, and it wasn't natural, but he had the capacity for it, and it helped him get better. Now, right at the end of my quote, I'm going to draw my reader's attention to what I want them to notice about this quote, just like I would do with the flower. So Irving points out that continual practice makes what was once challenging easy to the point where it seems effortless. All right, so what I really want you to see is notice how my explanation really directly ties back to my topic sentence. All right, I'm trying to get the reader to see how this evidence relates back to my main idea up here. All right. Now, also to help you, I did bold some of the transitions to help you see how you can move seamlessly between different ideas between your topic sentence and your explanation, and then introducing the quote and then moving out of that quote. And then the words that are underlined are there to show you how the writers or how your reader is going to make the connections, because I'm repeating certain words, kind of like talent, effort, work. It's okay to repeat words like these when they're referring back to your main ideas. You don't need to worry about being repetitive. All right, so what do you do if you're not exactly quoting, but you're just using an example? You can do pretty much the same thing. We always want to introduce the example that we're going to be using, just like our Oz textbook says in chapter 8. So you would say, one example of effort leading to talent is when Duckworth talks about, and then you could say the famous writer John Irving and how he was a C- student in high school English, but he worked at writing enough to become a published author. So right here's my example. And I even have the citation when I'm just giving an example like this. All right, then my analysis is Irving didn't have natural talent to write, but he put in a lot of hard work to develop his talent. So here I'm telling the reader what I want them to learn from this example. I'm drawing their attention to the appropriate place on that flower petal, like we have up here in this illustration. Now here's a little template you can use to help you with both quotes or just examples. You can start off like this. One example of, and give the main idea from your topic sense here, is when Duckworth talks about blank. This proves that the main argument by blank. So that's a simple analysis template that you can use in your writing for your paragraphs and reading questions.